Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Healy. I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Principals Association. Again, I'm with Eric Eschbach, our new Assistant Executive Director for the Principals Association, bringing you another webinar, recorded webinar on some timely topics, mostly about legislation here this morning. But we first want to begin with one of our Diamond Level sponsor, Cades Margolis, and Eric's going to tell you a little bit about Cades.
You see Cades Margolis's logo on the screen behind us. We really are trying to focus on some of our diamond level sponsors who don't get the opportunity to come out and meet with principals like they normally would, or set up a booth at our conference. So Cades Margolis and their financial advisors specialize in serving employees of public education and their families in Pennsylvania. They offer guidance, financial strategies, and proven retirement and investment solutions to help you meet your financial needs and goals. Their services include everything from choosing retirement investments to assisting with insurance needs to full investment portfolio planning. Cades Margolis specializes in working with educators, support professionals, and administrators employed in Pennsylvania's public school systems. Their financial advisors provide guidance at every stage of your career, from newly hired through retirement. Can't say how important it is for our young educators as well as our seasoned educators to have an investment strategy and to work with Cades to define that and to get them ready for life after their work in public education. So thanks to Cades Margolis. If you want some more information on their services, you can visit our website, www.paprincipals.org, and there is a link to the Cades Margolis website there.
Yeah, I think it's really important in this day and age. Unlike our retirement systems, when we signed up, it was very good, but the new hires were not going to have what we have. So it's very important to actually supplement that retirement system for the future. And you need to start at a very young age to do that, but it's never too late. So. Right. Again, Cades Margolis has been one of our Diamond Level sponsors. Ed Margolis is a great friend of ours and his team and staff there. They really deal with our elementary side of that. We have Lincoln that deals with the secondary side, but they will do all kinds of different things for members. So please make sure you give them a call. On another issue with Cades Margolis, and especially with Ed, over the last 4 or 5 years, they've been sponsoring a mini grant program up to $1,000 to an elementary school for kind of a unique program. And Ed sponsors that mini grant at our conference every year. We will be awarding that mini grant this October again. We had a lot of submissions, so there are a lot of needs out there. So we thank especially Ed and Cades Margolis for continuing to sponsor that mini grant as well.
Thank you.
All right, so a couple things. One other announcement I do want to make before we get into some legal things. First of all, we received an email yesterday from NAESP, which is the National Association of Elementary School Principals. And I think this will be very interesting to all principals and school leaders, across Pennsylvania. They're going to be partnering with the CDC to host a virtual forum to hear about some of these topics. What's the latest recommendations from the CDC about school reopenings? What about COVID testing in schools? What are effective in-school mitigation strategies? So those are the topics that are going to be covering this virtual forum that's going to take place on Wednesday, October the 7th at 4 p.m. You do need to register for that event, and you can find that registration link on our website at paprincipals.org. I think that would be a very informational website forum to attend. We're going to hopefully try to get on that as well if we're not locked out. So sign up early, go to our website under news and announcements, and you'll find the link there to register. Okay, so today we want to talk about some legislation that's moving at the state level. But before we do that, I want to talk about a court case that affects really school leaders across Pennsylvania. This comes from the Mahanoy School District. The case deals with basically a cheerleader. There was a cheerleader in the district that was on the JV squad initially. I think it was her second year then. She tried out again, thinking that she was good enough really to be on the varsity squad. When it came time to picking the cheerleaders for the varsity squad, she soon discovered that she was not going to be on the varsity squad. She would remain on the JV squad. Obviously, she was upset about that decision from the coaches or the selection committee. Later that evening, while she was with a friend, she decided to use either Snapchat or Twitter, I forget which social media, off campus, and decided to use some vulgar language like F these cheerleaders, F the program, all this kind of stuff. Certainly that was distributed to the rest of the cheerleaders, to the school district. And the school district did discipline her by saying that she would have to now sit out for the year of cheerleading and then possibly, reapply to be a cheerleader the following year. And I will say that they did sign, supposedly all the cheerleaders signed a statement that you would not disrespect the school, you wouldn't disrespect the cheerleading, you wouldn't use vulgarity and obscene language. So this has worked its way through the court system. The Third Circuit Court heard this. They actually sided with the girl and her family, that the district could not discipline her because of freedom of speech. But as most of you know, taking school law classes, there's a famous case called Tinker. And Tinker basically says that that students do not leave their freedom of speech rights at the door. However, that if there's a disruption, if the school district can prove a disruption to the school and some other things, that then yes, they could censor that speech and take appropriate action to protect other students.
Sure. If the speech was meant to be harmful,
Correct,
or threatening, or just created a large, substantial disruption, I think is the term that they use.
Yeah, so what happened is the Third Circuit ruled there, they appealed, and then the appeal process went through, still cited. So we as an organization, along with another organization, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, joined the school district on their side, saying, yes, school leaders need and administrators need the opportunity to make sure, especially in this day and age where you have all social media kind of playing in before, where that boundary line and the nexus between what happens at the school but what happens across the street from the school, especially with social media, is paramount these days. So we just wanted to let you know we're following that very carefully. The latest action on this is the School Boards Association, along with the district and along with us, we'll be writing some briefs to maybe hear the case, the United States Supreme Court at this point. So it is moving forward. We have some attorneys that are taking that on to fight this case, because this has ramifications across not only Pennsylvania, but really across the country. And the Third Circuit ruling is really outside of what we've enjoyed in the past to be able to do, to censor that speech and to protect children and staff in our schools. So stay tuned for that. It should be an interesting case if the Supreme Court takes it up.
It'll be interesting for the PA Principals Association's amicus brief to be involved in something at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, so we'll keep you updated on that case. If you want to read about it, I'm sure you can Google it and find some more information about the case. So now at the state level, there is some legislation moving through that we wanted to make you aware of and what the ramifications could be for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric for a couple bills.
I want to talk about a few bills that are making their way through, as Paul said, but also changing and ever evolving as bills tend to do when the legislators are trying to get a certain agenda passed. And it's an election year, and that there are certain agenda that are being pushed harder than others. So let's talk first about one, Senate Bill 1216. 1216 has a lot of things in it, thanks to many amendments that have been added to it. And 1216 gives a couple things. It gives a waiving of NIMS and NOCTI test requirements at our career and technical centers. It waives performance data.
For this
or
current school year,
For
right?
this
Right.
current school year.
Only.
Yep.
Right.
For the performance data on professional employees evaluation. It delays the use of Keystone exams as a graduation requirement until the 22-23 school year. So it was supposed to be 21-22. Now it pushes it back yet another year. It also gives parents an opt-out ability for any of their students who would take a Keystone course in the 1920 or the 2021 school year. So that's last school year or this school year. Parents could opt out of the Keystone exam with no detrimental effect on their student's grade or graduation requirement. So there's a lot in there about assessments, which we always like to see those assessment, that language being adjusted to reflect our current state. But there's also a lot of other language in there. There's something in about non-public transportation, and this has been an issue that we talked about before.
Yes, we have.
For school districts that are offering only virtual learning, are they still required to provide transportation for their non-public students? In this Senate Bill 1216, it says basically, if you provided transportation for them last year, you have to provide transportation for them this year, no matter what what model that you're using to provide education for your public education students.
Of course, the argument has been on that. If we're not providing transportation for our own students, why do we think it's safe to provide transportation for non-public students, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And obviously, this has there's a lot of political issues that go with this, especially in an election year. There's also some information in that's been added on to this bill about reporting of COVID-19 cases. So it's saying that the Department of Health must report positive cases to the school district. I'm hoping that the model that has been put in place for superintendents to be able to call the intermediate units to get a direct access to the Department of Health, I'm hoping that continues to work well. We've gotten mixed reviews on that from around the state, but so the Department of Health must make that contact to the school leader. And then within 24 hours of receiving that contact from the Department of Health, schools must communicate with their employees, with their volunteers, with their parents, of all the students that are in that building or on that school property. There are some buildings where a middle school and a high school are in the same on the same property. They would have to communicate that within 24 hours. So I think in our experiences locally, we think that's being done, but it ensures that parents are getting the latest information. The other bill that I wanted to talk about, it's kind of there are companion bills in both the House and the Senate, and this one changed even today. House Bill 2696 and Senate Bill 1230 both talk about the Back on Track Education Scholarship account. What this does, many will look at this as a way to get vouchers pushed through. So it's an account in which they take the $500 million from the COVID-19
CARES Act.
the CARES Act, right? $500 million that has to be spent this year, and they put that into an account where parents can apply for up to $1,000 per student. So if you're a parent and has 3 students, you could apply for it 3 times, up to $1,000 for 9 different things. And in the 9 different things, we have tuition to private schools. We have uniforms. There's things for hardware and software, and for counseling needs and tutoring needs for students. I've been asked to testify on the Senate bill side of this on Monday. The House bill, the companion bill, was supposed to run today. Right. Apparently, they did not have enough Republican support in the House Education Committee for this, and they withdrew that bill. So it's not even being discussed today. We'll see if it actually comes to the floor on Monday. I'm planning 11 a.m. to testify via Zoom. And the take that the Principals Association has on this. Now, we represent both public and private school principals and see the value of forms of education. But we also know that every student, all 2 million students in Pennsylvania, whether they attend a public school, whether they attend a private school, whether they're charter school students, deserve some kind of reparation for the educational disruption that they've had. What this account does is it only focuses on, at best, 500,000 students. So 500,000 times 1,000 per student would give you your 500 million. That's 1/4 of the students in Pennsylvania. It does give a provision saying that if a student is 185% above the federal poverty line, that they would get first dibs at this, but they have to apply in one day. The application process opens on a day in November and closes 3 weeks later, but the first dibs are only given for that first day. And then after that, it's a first come, first served basis. And we're saying, look, in order to meet the needs of all 2 million of our students, we need to provide a system that provides for software and hardware needs, internet capability, broadband accessibility for all students, including the 20% of students in the rural population of Pennsylvania that don't have broadband accessibility. And we all know, those of you who have handed out the Wi-Fi hotspots, that our cellular coverage is compromised in certain areas as well. So the Wi-Fi hotspots aren't necessarily reliable. We know many of you have issued laptops and iPads, and that's at a great expense to the school districts. And maybe most importantly right now is the huge influx and increase in mental health needs that we're seeing. We got some information back from one of our members saying that the Safe to Say program is seeing an increase in his area for those students who are at home that have very little in-person contact with people. That's very disconcerting. And a simple calculation of 500 schools and $500 million to say if every school got $1 million that could address issues with nursing, with counseling, with psychologists, with social workers, we can make a huge impact. Now we know that that in a state in which we have school districts that run from a few hundred students to several thousand, that giving $1 million to every school district is probably not fair. But there are formulaically fair ways to provide that to all school districts, that we could reach our public school students, our private school students who need the kind of healthcare needs that are out there, who need the kind of software and hardware needs that are out there, and the broadband internet accessibility. So we're opposing Senate Bill 1230 because it targets the haves versus the have-nots, and that's not what the Principals Association is about.
Right. And I'll just add to that as well, that we've been following this very, very closely. You and I have been talking about this for days right now. And we have aligned with the other educational organizations that are also, we believe the majority of those are coming out opposed to this, if not all of them as well. And we'll be providing testimony as well, whether it's, either, face-to-face, virtually, or just written testimony. So stay tuned about what will happen next Monday. Because the House withdrew their bill yesterday, they may be waiting to see what the Senate does first, and then tee it back up, or maybe the Senate withdraws with enough pressure that they're getting from other people opposing this. I said, it is Halloween month right now, right? So this is a disguise for vouchers in some way or form. So I'm just going to kind of put that out there in addition to everything else that is happening. So thanks for that really, overview of what's happening in that bill. It's a very important one for all of us. It has huge ramifications, not only for this, but down the line if this bill gets to a vote.
Yeah, and I can't say enough about the need for our members to be advocates for education. Advocates for the students. And that means when these kind of bills move forward to a point where we're concerned that all students aren't benefiting, that we need to be a voice. We need to testify as we're doing, but we also need you to be a voice and reach out to your local legislators to say, here's what's happening in my school, and here's how this bill is not going to help one bit. Here's how it could help. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so call your local senator right now and let them know that they should be voting no on Senate Bill 1230 at this point. And here's why, because of the ramification it has for your students, and not just some of the students, but for all students at this point.
That's
right. Okay, so I do want to remind you of our virtual conference that's coming up on October 25th. There's still some room to sign up. A virtual conference, we're going to have 3 keynoters, safe to say, as you mentioned,
Yes.
will be there answering some questions as well. And then we have Colonel Athens and Adolph Brown. So 3 of those. It's actually on a Sunday. It starts about 1 o'clock, runs to about 4:30, 4:45. You'll hear 3 keynoters. And the good news is it's free. Totally free, as a thank you to all of our school leaders for all of the work they've done to deal with the COVID situation, continuing to deal with the COVID situation, and to get schools back up and running in whatever form that they're in right now. So if you're interested in signing up for that, again, go to our website at paprincipals.org. You'll find a link under events to go ahead to sign up for that. It will be locked out at 500. I think yesterday we heard we're up to about 250 some. So we're approaching, now that we're in October, we got about 24 days until that event happens, or 3 weeks. So please go there and sign up now for that as well. Again, I want to thank our sponsor for today's webinar that's recorded, Cades Margolis, and all our friends, Ed Margolis and his staff, for their excellent support of the PA Principals organization, not only this year, but for many years in the past as well. We could not do the work that we do without our sponsors. So again, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Hope you're all safe and healthy out there. And again, if you have any questions on anything in this webinar or any other issues, please give Eric and I a call or shoot us an email. And again, stay safe and have a great weekend.
Take care.